you know, because they come from those struggles that are at the very root of the problems in our lives. Leonard Peltier, who represents the indigenous nations, the Mumia and the Black Liberation Army and the Panthers, who represent those enslaved Africans, those Africans who were dragged from the continent through a middle passage and just unloaded onto plantations for several centuries. And the latest manifestations of resistance came out of Panthers and Black Liberation Army soldiers. How can you not? You got folks from the Weather Underground who are still in prison, showing that even white folks who were able to develop a solidarity with folks of color, who were willing to put their lives on the line, like a John Brown, you know, made great sacrifices, and some who are in prison still suffering. We have got to figure out a way to integrate them and their need to be free into what we do. Several have already died in prison. Every time there's a death in prison, I am like, oh God, it hurts, because many times it's comrades who I knew. Because when I was there in prison, when we all were starting off, we all made commitments that whoever gets out, we'll work to get the others out. And when we said that back then, it meant get them out. It meant if we could get them out legally, fine. If we could not get them out legally, we're going in to get them physically. Because we knew that, you know, that kind of dedication was necessary. And you talking about the times that we was like 19, 20, 21, 25 years old, that we made that kind of commitment, and knowing that we was going to risk our lives, you know. This system is vicious. It's so vicious that it doesn't matter how many they have to kill to stay on top, they will do. We have to get in our minds that no matter how vicious they are, the power of the people is greater. We just have to figure out how to bring it together. And I think folks of color, indigenous and indigenous from the indigenous communities, are in the best position, because when we come on the scene, we're like the ghost who are reminders to all around that at the bottom of this society and in the beginning of the empire building is us, is our ancestors. And for me, the ancestors are saying, do something. I cannot be at peace unless you do something. Do something, you know. And I think that's our challenge, that whatever we do today, we cannot do without that consciousness that the ancestors are saying, do something. It's not over. Do something to bring an end, or more or less a final end to this madness. So I think that's our challenge. We have to figure out ways to really create something different that takes care of us at the same time that our objective is to, as George Jackson say, bring this empire to its knees and to believe it, because we deserve the best life that we know that we can create. And it was from our creation, it is with dignity. Dignity. The dignity of governing our own affairs. I think that's our challenge. And I want that to be your challenge. So I'm looking at the time for my